that's interesting. All right. Anyway, welcome to Cinematic Syndrome. I am your host, Cody Ryrie, and we're welcoming back Mac. Mac, welcome back.
Hey, thank you for welcoming me back.
I'm very excited about today's episode because this is one that I've wanted to do for a very long time. But I didn't bring this up. This was your idea.
Yeah, well, I actually had a friend. He was selling, 4 discs of, Alien on Blu-ray for about $15, and I thought, well, you know what?
That's a good price.
Yeah, it sounded like a good deal, and it's a classic. Like, man, why haven't I seen Alien? I mean, it's just, why? So I decided to, buy it and then give him a watch, and that's just kind of where it went from there.
Yeah.
And
Why was he selling it?
Oh, money and stuff. He's married and stuff. He has to. It's the balance of college life, being married. So it's just like I have to give up all my fun things in order to support my family.
That's sad.
I don't want
art above all. Anyway.
Yeah.
If you haven't gathered, we're talking about Alien, the first film in the Alien series. One of the reasons we're talking about this also at this time is we are just around the corner from the 40th anniversary of the release of Alien. So I found this out.
That's right. It came out in 1979.
Right,
didn't it?
May 25th.
That's right.
So we're recording this exactly a month away from the 40th anniversary.
Maybe we should have waited a month. Get right on the 25th. Like,
it's all right. Hopefully you're listening to this on the anniversary. How about that? And if you missed May 25th, it came out on September 6th in the UK.
Oh.
And this movie was a big deal in the UK because of Ridley Scott, who's a British filmmaker, and the film was made in England almost entirely.
That's right. I also believe Aliens was also made in England.
Right. By an American director that time.
Huh.
But
James Cameron, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we'll get into it because we're going to do a show on the rest of the series too. We're not exactly sure how we're going to break it up yet, but we will be discussing the other movies. And it's funny because James Cameron had a lot of trouble with the crew in England because they liked Ridley Scott.
Yeah. I actually watched a documentary about that, and they're
okay.
Yeah, they were kind of, they didn't really want to listen to him. In fact, they were very uncooperative. They wanted more pay, and they wanted specific hours. Like, he didn't like how they had tea time because it would break up the workflow, and it was a little bit awkward.
Well, James Cameron, I think, is technically Canadian. So I'm sure somebody out there is like, no, he's Canadian.
He's like, I don't know. It's just it's kind of hard to tell. Canadians sound exactly like Americans,
And it's funny because they have this reputation for being super polite, but James Cameron, that's not his leading characteristic.
Yeah, maybe he's not really Canadian.
Hey, conspiracy. Anyway, wait for that one on the Aliens podcast. But this one, Alien, we're looking back at the box office at the time. I was surprised to learn that it made $3.5 million on opening weekend. So that's pretty good for back in 1979. That's a good opening weekend.
Okay. Yeah, I really can't, I don't know too well about that, when it comes to inflation, but.
I looked that up, and it made total of almost 79 million.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at today's dollars, that's like 284 million.
Right.
So that's especially for an R-rated horror film in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
That's blockbuster business.
Yeah, because you have a limited audience that's going over to the theater.
Right.
And this is back when people were more. They didn't really want their kids, 13-year-olds watching radar movies.
Yes.
Although they'd probably, get in the trench coat and sneak in.
Yeah. Well, J.J. Abrams talks about that. I think it was either Alien or The Thing he snuck into. Well, no, The Thing he would have been, old enough. He talks about Alien and other movies like that sneaking into them. So it can turn into good things. You either become a psychopath or a filmmaker, I guess.
Let's hope it's the latter.
Anyway, so yes, it was a success at the time, hence the many sequels. We're going to talk about some of the legacy things that have happened from the movie. We're going to go over all of the behind-the-scenes stuff, our favorite moments. I'm excited to talk about this because this was your first time seeing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're new with it. I've seen it 30 times. And so it's nice to be able to talk to somebody who it's fresh for. We're going to talk about the differences between the different cuts. We're going to go over it all. So if you love Alien, this is going to be a pig out. We're just going to go crazy. First off, I think what we should start with, I love to talk about our personal reactions. Like the first time that you saw it, what your reactions were, what your favorite parts were. For me, the first time I ever saw it was in high school. No, it was middle school, I think. Mm-hmm. We rented it on VHS.
VHS, that old stuff. What's that again?
So that was a while ago. And my mom talked about going to see it in the theater and how it scared her so bad she'd never watched it again. And that is still true.
Wow.
She's never watched it again.
Wow, that's really, just the message, sticks.
Well, I think here's the thing. I think she would not think it was as scary if she revisited it, but she won't do it. I've tried to get her to watch it several times because I love it. But with that in mind, we watched it in middle school, so I'm 14, 15 years old. We're watching it. I saw I saw the beginning. I watched the first 20, 30 minutes, and then I watched the rest through my hands. Like, I was so... As soon as the facehugger grabs poor John Hurt...
And it's quick. There's no music that builds up to it. Just... And it's on his face.
I think the scariest thing the first time that I remember is when the facehugger comes off of his face.
Yeah.
And they can't find it.
Yeah.
And then when it falls down on Sigourney Weaver, after that, I didn't see anything. I just watched it through my fingers.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't say it scared me. Like I felt startled a lot. Like, the thing when it jumps on his face, and when it comes down, I'm like, oh, it's still there. But I don't know. Oh wait, Sigourney Weaver should be fine.
See, in 1979, they wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I should have been born in the 70s or something, right?
Well, when I watched it today, and I watched it, like I said, this morning, I kind of tried to look at it as, okay, let's say I knew nothing about this. Let's say I'm watching it for the first time. And also, we'll talk about this too, but Roger Ebert wrote a review of this for his Great Movies series.
Yeah.
And he talks about the things that the movie does to keep it fresh. And one of the things I did notice this time is the alien keeps changing. He brings that up.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But you never can get a figure on it. Is it big? Is it little? Is it a spider? Is it a, what is it? And you can't really get a hold on it.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so scary, is because it's the unknown. Like, men fear what they can't see or what they don't understand.
Yeah, and it does spend, especially in this first movie, a lot of time off screen. I mean, I haven't timed how much the alien's actually on screen, but it's got to be less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, I would probably have to agree with you on that. But that's what makes it so scary. Like in another movie that happens to have an alien in it, but you don't see it very often, is the movie Signs.
Yes.
Yeah, and you only get you see it on TV, like in the movie, you see it on TV for like 1 second, but it's not a clear picture. You see its hand at one point. And then at the end, you finally get a full, body shot of it. But most of the time, you just hear the noises it makes, and that's what makes it scary.
I think that Signs takes a lot of cues from Alien. Now, it's a nicer movie.
Yeah, it has a happier ending.
Yes, but Alien doesn't end unhappily.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people die. Like, all of our friends die, so...
Yes. But it's that same kind of a thing that I think Jaws does this, too.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Jaws came out before this. So I think they're taking some cues from Jaws. I think Alien is kind of the love child between 2001: A Space Odyssey and Jaws, because I don't know if you've ever seen 2001.
No, I saw.
You know of it, I'm sure.
I know of it.
Yeah.
The monolith, the monkeys are.
But there's a lot of the kind of poetic nature of 2001. Like, we're gonna pick our shots. Very, we're going to make this look amazing. And Alien looks amazing.
Oh, yeah, it really does.
So it has that kind of poetic nature, but it also has very much the Jaws, let's not show the monster. It's just going to, rip people away. But what they do, and Alien does this too, is you make the monster super scary. Yeah. It terrorizes everybody the whole time, and then you kill it. And when you kill it, it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Signs did the best job with that, although some people have really problems with the big reveal. There's nothing more satisfying than beating the crap out of something with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
I mean, this one you get. I like the ending. It's satisfying. It crawls in the engine and she blows it out the engine.
Well, what I like about that, and maybe this is my personal take, I like when she does the engine. It's like this purifying, white light, like it's as if to cleanse the evil from the ship.
You notice that then the music for the first time is like in a major key. Then it's always in these kind of minor spooky keys, and the first time the music sounds reassuring is when she blows it out of the engine.
Yeah.
That's how you can kind of tell when she's in the shuttle and she's like, "Oh, I did it! I blew up the ship." There's no music.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, eh.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did notice is that for a brief moment they have, like, after the main ship blows up, there's like a brief hint, but maybe it's just in one of the versions, I don't know, of like some like kind of slightly pleasant music, and then and then it stops and she walks over, okay, make sure the ship's all right. Like, wait, why is she still going over the ship? Shouldn't the movie be ended if the alien's actually dead? And then it reaches out and grabs her and she's like, it's still here.
I thought that was ingenious at the very end. It looks like part of the ship when it's hiding. Its head kind of just looks like a piece of the ship. And that's kind of one of the most ingenious shots is it shows it there for a while.
Yeah.
It's right there in the frame. It just blends in so well.
Yeah.
You don't know it's there.
Yeah, and I think Signs, took another footnote. Like, there's that part
true.
when they're in the basement, it camouflages with that old fireplace, and it reaches out and it grabs the kid. They're like, okay, we're in the basement, we're safe. No, you're not. It's still there.
That's it. Well, I say it like I think big satisfying way to kill the monster. You beat it up with a baseball bat. You shoot it with an oxygen tank in its mouth and it blows up, or you fry it with an engine into space.
Yeah.
So, and also the engine, I think one of the things I talked about purifying, that shot, special effects wise, was done with water.
Oh,
so
I thought so because it looked very well. It looked
so it's a bright light with water behind it.
Okay.
But that adds to kind of that purifying idea of
Yeah, and then inside you have actual water.
That's true.
I don't know what's really purifying about blowing something up, but yeah,
in water.
Well, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
So I said something else that I noticed this time when I was watching it is we were talking about how it's Sigourney Weaver. You're like, oh, Sigourney Weaver, she's safe.
Yeah.
Well, I said if you go on watching it not knowing what's going to happen, you try to put yourself in that headspace, then I think you assume that Dallas, Tom Skerritt, is the main character.
Yeah, I would have assumed that too. In fact, for some reason, even though I know, I have a feeling that it's only going to be her at the end, I thought he would have lived for some reason.
Yeah, well, the movie really kind of puts you there. I mean, he's the commander. He's he's in charge. He's in a lot of the movie making these decisions, and then so I think, especially 1979 audiences probably would have really been freaked out when he goes in. We're going to talk about the air vent scene.
Yeah,
it's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah,
but that would be a real pull the rug out from under you if your lead main character dies like an hour and 10 minutes into the movie.
Yeah,
and then you don't know who's gonna go and who's gonna be next. So I kind of miss the fact that we don't watch it knowing that. I mean, anybody who watches it now knows Sigourney Weaver's the person. But again, that's a kind of brave choice for a 1979 movie to make the woman the one that survives and goes through.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to look and see if that was a common thing, but I really don't think it was.
Yeah, I think it was when they originally wrote the script, they made it so it would be what's the term for when it's like it could be either gender, like was it no, it's not bisexual. That's something else. But
Alien's a very bisexual script.
Yeah.
Well, it could be every part could be played by a man or a woman.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
I don't know if there is a word for that, but go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, unisex. That's what it was. Unisex.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they were going to do it, either way, and honestly, I think it worked just fine the way it was because the idea was that they were truckers in space, and a trucker can be a guy or a woman. I actually only see guys. I don't know about women. But
I've seen a few girl truckers.
Yeah, so it's just I think Sigourney worked best because I felt like in a way she seemed more just like kind of like a regular person. Dallas, he's he's a leader. He has a little bit sort of strength. So in a way, I guess Sigourney's strength was that she was more like regular people.
Yeah, you could put yourself in her shoes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. You don't know. This also struck me on my last viewing. You don't know anything about these people.
Yeah.
You never find out till later movies anything about Ripley's home life, about Dallas's home life, Kane, any of them. You don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
You never find out about their families. You never find out about the mission they were on. They don't even talk about that. Like, talk about stripped down. Like, there is nothing but their performances. That's like all you get to latch onto. Unless the director's cut, which I haven't watched in a while, has more stuff. But I don't remember anything from the director's cut going into that. But in Aliens, we get more information.
Yeah.
In the sequels, we do.
Yeah. When it comes to the characters and their backstories, I believe maybe it was somebody else, but I believe Ridley Scott wrote like pages of their backstory for each character. So they knew their character and they played it, but it's not like in real life people are constantly talking about what they've done in the past.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think knowing it for them probably helped them play it. But that's something else that struck me. Because I don't know if have you ever seen Blade Runner?
With Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
I haven't. I really should. But
Ridley Scott made that too a couple years after this. And he's talked about later on how they're kind of part of the same universe, and that's kind of what Earth looks like in the alien universe and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Whatever else. But the thing that struck me this time is Blade Runner is very stylized, especially the dialogue. It's very much a crime noir detective, but in the future with robots.
Oh,
right?
okay.
This, I was noticing, it's very almost like faux documentary, the way they talk. Like, I think a lot of it must have been improvised. I don't know, you've been doing a lot of research, maybe you can tell me better, but the way they speak is almost like a reality show.
Yeah. Well, I actually heard the tension between Sigourney Weaver and what's the name of the one actor?
Yaphet Kotto?
the one I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Fakota. They kept saying his name. I'd have to keep rewinding it. Like, how do you spell that? And I was like, screw it, I'll turn on subtitles.
Parker.
Parker. But apparently they had some actual off-camera, tension and stuff. They kind of butt heads. And Yaphet even suggested a lot of stuff to Ridley Scott about the story, and Ridley Scott's like, shut up, I'm the director.
Well, I remember him saying when there's time to film his death scene, he's like, no, I'm not going out. This alien can't kill me. He had to convince him to let him film his death scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the director says you're going to die. You're going to die. I hate to say it, but sometimes the director is the god of the movie. Well,
and all those things that you hear about, the guy who played Parker in the behind the scenes, they very much match his character's attitude.
Yeah.
It's almost like he cast them to type.
Right.
And that tension between the two, between Sigourney Weaver and him, really kind of flares up in a couple of the later scenes, especially when Sigourney Weaver takes command.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really real, and it feels very authentic, and it helps the movie, I think.
Yeah, like one of my favorite parts, I find it really powerful, but also kind of funny at the same time, is when she's trying to talk about, okay, we should probably split up into groups, and Parker's still talking. He's like, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm talking here, all right? I'm trying to figure out a way for us to survive it. And I guess that's just what makes it, kind of where your reality show kind of feelings come from, is that they react the way, I guess, we would react.
Especially under stress.
Yeah. I mean, the alien just killed their boss, or their captain and friend, and now it's like, well, the guy who would have had a plan to get us out of this is dead. Now we have to figure out our own plan.
Well, and I also love, because I work in a very blue-collar job.
Uh-huh.
And the thing that they get very right about that, and even though, okay, we're in outer space, we're with aliens, there has to be a grounding in reality, right? And this movie does that really well. The way that, I'm going to look it up, Yaphet Kotto, Parker, and Harry Dean Stanton, Brett,
right?
They are the blue-collar. I mean, they're all kind of blue-collar.
Yeah.
But they're the blue-collar in the blue-collar.
That's right.
They're like the ones that only get half a share. They're always talking about that.
Yeah.
And whatever else. They nailed the way that talk happens in the shops and the whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
Like this whole, we can't stand the company, we can't stand the higher-ups.
Yeah.
And then we're nice when they're around, but as soon as they're gone, they don't know what they're talking about. It feels so real.
Yeah. And you know what? I think I can kind of understand that too, because I used to work for a catering company, and that's what I actually went down this last week.
Mm.
But sometimes we'd have talks and like, man, when are we going to get paid? Because sometimes something happens and we can't get paid, or we get paid super late. And I just thought, like, geez, yeah, that's how we talk.
That's, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Parker and Brett's concerns about getting an equal pay, or getting paid or not getting paid. That's something I can relate to. Personally, I've actually had that problem.
See, that kind of stuff, I think that's one of the reasons the movie works, is because we don't know backstory. And you're always saying, oh, people need to care about this guy in the movie to make him relatable, or you have to know where he's coming from to be relatable. I don't think that's true. I think this movie shows just the opposite. If people act like real people, and if they have a well-rounded character in their mind when they're performing a well-rounded character, and if you can put yourself in that situation, as filmmaking-wise, Ridley Scott does this too. I didn't notice this before this last viewing. There are tons of point-of-view shots in the movie. Like, you'll see Sigourney Weaver running down the hallway, and the camera's running down the hallway showing you what she's seeing.
Yeah.
Or even inside the helmets on occasion. Of the spacesuits. They'll do a shot outside the helmet. They're putting you inside these people's shoes. And that's why it becomes relatable, and that's why it becomes scary. Because you feel like, okay, I might see myself doing that. Or I feel like I'm there. He's very good craft-wise, and the performers do a really good job of putting you in that place and making it feel real.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I think it works. I think that's why we're still talking about it 40 years later.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, but I'm sure there's lots of reasons.
Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons that it is one of the movies that we talk about, as opposed to other films that probably fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Ebert mentioned something where he said that a lot of modern movies are kind of like, okay, sit down for 2 hours while we try to gross you out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do think some gore has its place, and hence movies like The Thing. I saw a documentary for The Flight. I actually want to throw up from watching that. But I mean, movies like that, they definitely have their place. But nowadays, it's just kind of like, we're going to kill these people horribly, and that's really all we're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and this, First off, there's not a lot of pleasure and not a lot of lingering over the kills, quote unquote.
Yeah.
You
Like
know?
even the death that I think would be the most gory. I'm always on the debate between either Kane or Parker, because Parker we see ripped apart and Kane we actually have the chest burster.
Yeah.
It's not focused on for very long.
It's very brief. And then most of the time when the alien kills somebody, heck, when the alien gets Dallas, we don't even see him get it.
Yeah.
He turns the flashlight around, there he is, gone.
Yeah, and that part's pretty horrifying, because I mean it's like a lot of times, like say you're in the dark or maybe you're just at work or something, and then somebody just appears like right in front of you, and that's horrifying. I mean, like, and like, oh, it's just my friend or my coworker. Like, no, this time it's an alien and it's going to kill you.
You know what? We should talk about the air vent scene. We're here. We
Okay.
keep touching on it. I don't know if it's my favorite scene in the movie, but it's definitely up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to talk about a couple of things that really stand out to me, and then if you want to mention anything else or other scenes that you like. So we know the aliens. It's set up so well.
Yeah.
We know the aliens in the vent.
Yeah.
We know they got to go there to get it. They know they can block it off and send somebody in. They don't know if fire's going to hurt it or not, but they're going to try. And then also you have Dallas go into the room with the computer. Mother is there.
Yeah.
And he's asking, like, what are my chances? Is this a good idea? And he doesn't get anything back. So you can tell he's nervous about it.
Yeah.
It's all set up. They have the motion tracker, which is another great touch.
Yeah.
Because you know it's somewhere really close by, but you don't know where it is. And then the final touch that I love is when they close the vents, there are these things from hell. Like these like metal scraping irises.
Yeah.
That just screech every time they get shut or opened. They're horrible.
Yeah. I know. It just, I always feel like if you're going to walk through one of those, you're going to worry about losing a hand or a leg or something. And it's really claustrophobic too.
Yes. I
mean, he can barely fit his whole body in there, and he's also carrying the flamethrower. It's really dark. I mean, super dark. I think the only thing that's giving him light is the flamethrower flame.
Well, he's got a flashlight too.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's got the flashlight. But still, there's not a whole lot of light.
No. And I also love the fact that, there's times when his headset falls off.
Yeah.
He's got to put it back on. Like, he's so cramped in there.
Yeah. And, with all of that, I'd be pretty stressed out. And I think you can kind of, hear in his voice, and it kind of gradually gets more and more just freaked out. And also, Lambert, she's watching the motion detector.
She can see it going right at him.
Yeah, and the thing is, he doesn't have a motion detector. She does, and so he just has to imagine, okay, how far away is it from me? Is it behind me? Is it above me? And one thing I like about the motion detector in general is that it's not a very in sci-fi movies have today, like, oh, we can have a hologram, a perfect hologram that shows you exactly what's happening. Like, no, it's just a bunch of blinky little dots moving around, and you don't know if it's a level above, below, and it's just there's so much unknown in the scene, and it just builds the tension.
Well, I love the fact that in his performance, he's the main character, we think, up to that point.
Yeah.
He's been very brave up to this point. He's whatever else, and then at a certain point, he talks about, I got to get out of here. Yeah. Like, his nerve breaks.
Yeah.
And he acts like a real person. Even a brave real person at a certain point is going to be like, this is a bad idea. Yeah. We need to get out of here. And I remember that also really ratchets the tension right before the end because, wow, even our main character is scared and then our main character is dead.
Yeah.
So I love that scene. Like I said, I think there may be a couple more that just are a little bit better for me, but it's definitely in the top. I do want to talk about also Ash. I think that's when I was listening to Ridley Scott's commentary on the movie, he talked about the thing that caused people to faint or to run out of the movie theater was nothing to do with the alien. It was when Ash starts to freak out and malfunction.
Yeah.
And then Parker comes up and hits him with like a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, that's right. And knocks his head right off.
His head knocks off. He said people just freaked out, ran away.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they didn't know he was a robot.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on.
Well, I didn't know he was a robot either when I first watched it. And I'm just like, why is he attacking Ripley? What's going on? I mean, that's another good scene is when Ripley's going into the computer. Can we talk about this right now or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, when she goes into the mother and she's trying to find out more about what the alien is and why they went to get it, and it says crew expendable, and then Ash comes up behind her.
He's sitting right there.
Yeah, and I just thought like, oh.
He's been acting creepy the whole time. Too.
Yeah, well, ever since the alien got on board, he's been acting strange. Like he opens the airlock when he's not supposed to, and he's just like, oh, I forgot that I didn't have the authority to do that. Like, who forgets something like that?
Well, and I like the fact that when in these kind of movies, you're always going to have problems, right? You're like, okay, if people acted smart, half of them wouldn't die.
Yeah.
And so you have to find clever ways to get around some of those things. And Ash is a really clever narrative device to have somebody on the crew who's trying to help the alien.
Yeah.
And that solves a lot of your problems about, well, if it just did this, they'd be safe. Well, if it just did this, they're trusting Ash, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah, well, Ash is sabotaging their safety. If, Ripley had just left the door closed, and there was no Ash, we wouldn't really have a movie. We'd just have maybe one dead guy.
And they returned home safely.
Yeah, 20-minute movie.
Yeah, that scene afterwards where they try to talk to him when he's just ahead.
Yeah.
Let's see, how do I put this? In theory, is a very interesting scene. In practice, and Ridley Scott talks about this too, so I'm not throwing dirt on Ridley Scott. The wax head they made apparently didn't dry right.
Yeah.
And so I saw this movie in the theater in Los Angeles. We went to Quentin Tarantino's theater, me and a buddy, for a midnight showing of Alien. And they asked at the beginning, and a lot of people hadn't seen it. And when that scene popped up, and when they have the actual actor, Ian Holm, is there talking, it looks great.
Yeah.
But then when they unplug him, it looks really weird.
Yeah.
And that got laughs in the theater.
Really?
When we were there. Yeah. And Ridley Scott talks about in his commentary, he's like, man, I hate that. Like, he hates that shot because he's like, it looks fake.
Yeah. Well, I really do feel like they did try their hardest with that one. It was just something that was a little bit out of their control. But one thing about that scene that kind of creeps me out is that Ash wishes them good luck, with their chances. And then when you do see the actual fake head, he's like stuck in this creepy
the grin.
The grin. I don't know why, but that just kind of unnerved me.
And then Parker fries him with the flamethrower.
Yeah, Parker flies with the flamethrower, almost kind of giving him the finger.
Yeah, I feel so too. But it's an interesting scene, and it is creepy when he smiles at the end. Somehow you have my complete sympathy or something like that.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know. It's almost like he's saying, "Up yours, guys. You're all gonna die."
Well, and I like this idea of the organic robot, right? Like, he's a robot still, but he's made of like gooey stuff.
Yeah, and it feels like he has actual organs, not circuits or metal or electric parts.
Yeah.
He's not a Terminator. He's not an iRobot. He's he's
goopy.
Yeah, he's goopy. He's got soft, gushy parts.
And he bleeds like milk stuff.
Yeah. He also sweats it too.
Yes.
And that's one thing I wonder. Like, why would a robot sweat?
Shh. Anyway, I don't know. It looked cool. It was a very cool, and they're trying to reveal, what's going on at that point.
Yeah, and then that part in general where he's attacking Ripley, and then he grabs her and he rips out her hair, and just he's got some strength. And then he picks her up and he throws her into the wall I think he did it with one arm too. And
what did you think? You didn't know he was a robot.
I didn't know he was a robot.
What did you think was going on when you saw it?
I just thought he was. Well, I definitely thought he wanted to, preserve the alien, because I kind of feel like that was kind of the...
They hinted that pretty hard.
Yeah, that he wanted to save the alien, we should freeze it and take it back to study and stuff like that. So I definitely knew that, but I thought, man, how is this guy so strong? And then he knocks his head off, and oh. He's not human.
Something I didn't notice till I watched it, because we were talking about this before the recording, but I just got the 4K disc.
Yeah.
And something I hadn't seen until we had the 4K detail. Maybe you could see it in your screen you were watching it on. When Ash is all plugged up with the head separate, it is goopy, but there's also a lot of fiber optic cables.
Huh.
They're like glowing in there.
Right. There's these bulbous little things.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's those, and there's also those little tiny, barely visible, lit up fiber optic cables.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So there is a touch of machine in there, But I thought it was interesting because I don't think before then, and I could be wrong, but I don't think before then in movies robots had ever been gooey. They were always metal.
Yeah, and also coming off the success of say Star Wars, all the robots in there were very metally and had wires and stuff like that.
Yes.
I mean that's the only movie I can think of, that was close to that time period that had robots in it.
And it was 2 years before.
Yeah. And Terminator hadn't come out yet, I believe.
No, Terminator was still 4 or 5 years away. Yeah. So, but it's interesting. Excuse me. The robot theme would continue in Blade Runner. That's something he kept going with there. And he got even more interested in as we get into the later movies like Alien Covenant and Prometheus.
Yeah.
The artificial intelligence idea almost takes over the movie.
Yeah.
And becomes much more. You haven't seen those yet, though, right?
I've seen Prometheus.
Okay. Well, yeah, that and it even gets more stated in Alien Covenant. Ridley Scott is much more interested in artificial intelligence than he is aliens. You can tell.
Well, I think that might be a nice twist because we know the alien, but it's nice to maybe to focus the attention on something else, just to I mean, expand the universe.
It is interesting, but as far as this first movie goes, I think he was still playing with aliens, and that the whole reveal of Ash is kind of just a secondary thing, but it's very effective because it makes you feel again not safe.
Yeah.
If there's nothing you can rely on.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was like you thought with the crew, the ones that were still alive, like, okay, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
To fight the alien. Like, no, one of us actually wants to save the alien, and we're just expendable meatbags.
Well, and you'll notice that that's a theme that continues. Not necessarily the alien or the androids or replicants or whatever you're going to call them being evil. That goes back and forth.
Yeah.
But in the sequels, there's always somebody who's trying to help the alien.
Yeah. There was that one guy, I forget what his name was. In Aliens, he gets eaten by an alien. That was actually kind of... I thought that was really nice. He's the one who wants to save...
He's the company man.
The company guy,
yeah.
the suit. That's another thing that Ebert, he referred to Ash. He's kind of like a suit for the company, Weyland-Yutani.
Yes.
He's just all about the corporate, the ends justify the means because it'll be more beneficial to humanity or earn more funds for the company.
Well, and he's programmed that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting and kind of weirdly disturbing scene. I think one of the key parts of this movie, and this is the one that caused the budget to go up from what it originally was when they actually land on the planet and they go explore and Kane gets hit by the facehugger.
Yeah.
It becomes a big budget movie for about 10 minutes there. That stuff where they go and they look at the ship and they climb on the ship and there's the space jockey in the giant chair. That's essential because that makes it feel like the world that they're in exists. Besides that, I think 75% of the movie they're on the Nostromo. They're just in the ship.
Yeah.
That's a step out, and it's a very impressive step out. And I know that was the big. I don't know if it was the biggest set they built, or it was one of the biggest. Sets
I think it was probably the most expensive one, if it wasn't the biggest. They actually didn't buy that set. They had to rent it. It was like the people who made it, like, hey, look, this will cost you $500,000, to buy. So why not just save your money, rent it, and then because it's a really small part of the movie.
Yeah.
They were there. They got the King got face hugged, and then they left.
Face hugged. I've never heard that used as a verb before. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Give me a face hug.
Okay. All right, everybody. I said it. I said that.
That might be my favorite. That might be my favorite scene in the movie is when they go in the spaceship. I just love the way that space jockey creature looks.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I didn't like Prometheus as much because I love the mystery of who was this person.
Yeah, there's some questions that are better left unanswered.
Yeah, I think so and the fact that it was really creepy just sitting there and they kind of examine it and it has kind of fossilized to the chair and whatever else and you're love the fact that your brain can be all these possibilities, right?
Yeah.
Was it a weapon ship? Was he selling these things and that got on and got him? Because obviously an alien came out of him.
Yeah.
We do have that. That makes sense. But I love the design. I love the way that room looks. It's just creepy as all get out.
Yeah. Especially when you look at the eggs themselves. One thing I think is so interesting about that, these eggs, they can't hatch by themselves. If nobody entered that room ever, they would never hatch.
No.
But they're covered in mist, and then when Kane gets close to it, it opens slowly. Some gases come out of it, and you look inside. It looks like it has an actual living organism in it.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the other parts I like is that you can actually see through the egg and see the spider facehugger in there, and it's just this looks like an actual organic living thing.
And that's the thing that's amazing to me is, and you hear Ridley Scott talk about it, and he's so it's funny because he's so self-deprecating. Right? He's like, oh, well, we just did that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I just want to sit him down and be like, dude, it looks amazing. Take credit. Especially 1979, and it still looks real in a lot of places. Especially the whole facehugger scene. That, first off, that's a matte painting that shows the whole thing, but it's a beautiful matte painting. Mm-hmm. And then he comes down and you have that layer of laser or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's this mist that comes up and it hits the layer and stops.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's great stuff. And now they try to use it on computer, and it would look like computer.
Yeah.
But that looks real because it was real. Yeah. They just filmed it there. And I love that. And I think you're talking about when you can see the egg starts to wake up.
Yeah.
And you see it kind of flutter inside or whatever. First off, that was Ridley Scott with his hands in a glove model thing, and he was doing the motion.
Wow.
When he was doing it.
Wait, he was hands-on.
He was. That's one of the things that he's kind of a perfectionist. And so nobody could get the motion right unless he did it.
Right.
You know, that was his thing.
You want something done right, do it yourself.
And also, he did a lot of the camera operating himself. Because he wanted to, I want it to look this certain way. I have to know it looks that way. So I'm going to operate the camera. You know, so he's very, like I said, very hands-on. One of the things I love about the egg itself is when he gets close to it, there's liquid on it, and it's kind of dripping up.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that.
And it's this really kind of eerie, very subtle, whatever else. And that was done very simply, too, is they just turn the egg upside down.
Right, and then they just...
drip stuff off
and then they showed the film in upside down or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then when it opens, first off, sound is very important to that. Yeah. The sound it makes is very unnerving.
Yeah.
And I noticed this, too, when I was watching it, because I actually had the sound up this time. I really wanted to listen to it. When he breaks that barrier, not only is there a sound of like a barrier breaking, you can hear the eggs start to come alive. Like you start to hear rustling and stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
There it is. That. You know, and so I thought that was a nice touch. In fact, throughout the whole thing, sound is very important. He goes from really loud, like screaming or wind, to dead quiet.
Right.
And then back.
Yeah.
And then dead quiet. You know, and I love that. Like you're never able to get peaceful. You're never able to let your guard down because it's doing that. But I think if we're going to name scenes, my favorite scenes when they go in the alien ship, I could watch that all day. And I love the design of the ship, too. I think that was Giger. He did the design of the inside of the ship and everything.
Yeah, they said that his designs were very, in a way, sexual and stuff like that.
In the most kind of unsettling way.
Yeah, very unsettling way. And just also with, just how the alien looks. Like, I really thought it was a good touch with, just all the, the black. And even the alien ship itself, it looks very organic to kind of, match the eggs.
It almost looks like it was a grown ship.
Yeah, like somebody planted a seed and they just grew a ship.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah, I mean, when you compare it to the Nostromo, I mean, they're it's like night and day, honestly.
Well, another thing that's really, and you put this on your notes, I had forgotten about this, but you brought it back up. To make that ship look bigger, they put little kids in the spacesuits.
Yeah.
I don't know whose kids it was.
I think it might have been Ridley Scott's or
He's got grown kids now, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but what's kind of sad about that is that those it's kind of ironic because they designed spacesuits, but they had no ventilation, so the kids were passing out from lack of oxygen. It was also really hot in there too.
Well, you can tell that because the face masks keeps fogging up.
Yeah.
In the actual movie too.
Yeah, and the other actors were also passing out too, and it was I don't know, it's just they made something that looked like a spacesuit but wasn't actually a spacesuit.
Had no ventilation in it.
Yeah, no ventilation.
They had similar problems on 2001: A Space Odyssey. I remember there was a stuntman having to do a bunch of stunt work, and they didn't have any ventilation. He kept passing out from carbon dioxide poisoning. Yeah,
but I mean, anyways, I thought those looked really good when they put the kids in it because I didn't know, I couldn't tell when I watched the movie. It did look like they're puny compared to the spaceship.
Well, the actual clear views of that alien spaceship, there's only 2 or 3 shots. Mm-hmm. The rest of them, you always see it through the helmet cam.
Right.
And that's another amazing touch because if your model has to look great to be convincing. And so they spend a ton of time doing smoke and lighting it just perfect. And the other times they film it with a video camera. And then that's going to lose a lot of detail, right? And you're going to make it feel very real. So even today, 40 years on, I think some of those shots of the alien ship and the inside of it look as good or better than anything that can be done today.
Yeah.
And especially the inside of the alien eggs and stuff, that looks amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think that's probably the best looking out of the scenes in the movie, because it feels so real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I said that's the one that opens the world up. Otherwise, you'd just be on the Nostromo the entire time.
Yeah. If the alien just showed up on the Nostromo, from outer space, and they never actually went on the planet, they never went inside the spaceship, it just wouldn't feel the same. It wouldn't feel right.
Well, when you go onto the ship and you see the space jockey and all that stuff, it builds a world. Mm-hmm. It feels like, and I'm borrowing a phrase from Christopher Nolan. He talks about Ridley Scott's the best at this. It feels like the world keeps going outside the camera. Mm-hmm. If I was to take the camera and turn it left or right, there'd be something really interesting there.
Yeah.
And that's what the trip to the planet does. It feels like there's a history. And there's multiple planets, and things have happened in the past, and they will happen in the future. It feels real. Yeah,
and I think that's why people didn't like the movie Prometheus, because people like the idea that there are different things in the world that are there, and it leaves a lot of mystery. But I mean, the world becomes boring when you try to explain everything.
Well, and I was stoked for Prometheus because it looked amazing, and it's Ridley Scott coming back to Alien. But the idea that the space jockey thing it's just a person, basically. A really big person in a suit. Like, I was so disappointed by that. But there was no answer that wouldn't have been disappointing. Yeah. Because it should have been mine to mystery over for forever. Yeah. You know, I think that's the problem is there is no satisfying answer, so you let everybody come up with their own answer. Right. And think about it and dig on it. And I was disappointed by that. That's why I don't really count Prometheus or Alien Covenant as part of the series.
Well, yeah, when I did watch Prometheus, I kind of felt like it's not an alien movie.
And it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like it. Although there are some different disturbing parts in it that I kind of feel are borrowed from it. Like the part where the alien is implanted in her, she goes in the machine to get it pulled out.
It's probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah. It's it has the most tension, the most stress, because I don't know who's going to live or die in this, and then she's having this machine pull this thing out of her. I mean, like, that's really painful.
Well, and to give credit, the movie still looks amazing. I mean, Ridley Scott, has a painterly eye for creating images. But I think Alien, it doesn't get any better than that, the first film, because of its simplicity. Mm-hmm. Because you're not having all these, philosophical arguments and religious arguments and whatever else. The sequels more and more got into these like deep philosophical questions. I'm like, it's a monster movie. Mm-hmm. Why are we worried about philosophy and religion? It's a monster movie. Yeah. It's a really well-made monster movie. That's a problem I've had with the other ones. But I think this one, it does it really, really well. Are there other scenes that stand out to you?
Other scenes that stand out to me? Well, I really do like the opening scene where you see the giant Nostromo, and then you start panning in. You go over the different parts of the ship, and it looks dirty. It looks lived in. And then you see the pods, open up, and you just have this, very subtle, music. It's kind of mysterious, ominous, and it's not. I don't really feel like it's scary, but it's very spooky, and it kind of builds tension. It's almost like it's saying, like, something bad's going to happen, and as if you're like walking into a room, like something bad's going to happen. Like, what? What's going on?
I love the opening title. When Alien is built slowly, little by little, with the words, and it has that kind of like moaning kind of music in the background right before you see the inside of the ship. I think it starts to build tension even then.
That's right. Yeah.
With the title, but I do love that scene too. And I also jump in the beginning of the movie when it's going over the ship. And, like, some things are moving around. Like, there's little birds on the table. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the
computer clicks on. It makes me jump.
Yeah. That part did also make me jump because it came out of nowhere. And also just how they do it. It's not just, here's the screen. Like, no, it's reflecting against that helmet.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
See, talk about visuals.
Yeah. It just, it's very spooky. In fact, I kind of wondered, are they ever going to use the helmet? No, they don't. So it kind of felt like, I don't know, the helmet almost felt like it was possessed or something.
Well, and again, the sound is very key there. Everything feels lived in is a good word. And you can't give total credit to Alien for that because Star Wars did start that whole dirty, lived in kind of sci-fi thing.
The thing I like about Alien is that I didn't notice it at the time, but they actually made symbols that tell you what everything means. Star Wars, it's like, okay, well, it's not in our galaxy, so we can't have any semblance of, okay, what does this mean or what does that mean? But the guy who designed it, I forget what his name.
Ron Cobb or Giger?
I think it was Cobb. Yeah, it was definitely Cobb because he designed a lot of the Nostromo stuff.
Yes,
but he made symbols to tell you what different things meant, like no gravity.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah,
Keep going. This is fascinating.
Yeah, he made symbols that told you what different parts of the ship actually meant. Like one of the symbols where it says, okay, if you go in here, there's no gravity. It's like a little body floating above the ground. Okay, if there is gravity, then you're on the little figures on the ground. So I don't know. Maybe next time you watch it, you'll see these different symbols. But he designed those, and I thought, hey, that's kind of a nice touch. He didn't have to do that, but that made the ship feel like an actual ship.
Yeah, well.
And if you go on a plane or you go on a freighter cargo ship, there are symbols around that tell you what stuff means.
Well, and when we're talking about design, I love the costumes in the film.
Oh yeah,
like there's a real. It has a real 70s vibe to it, which I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But it also, again, everything's in the service of this could really be happening somewhere. And I remember, he didn't write about it in the Great Movies article, I don't think, but Ebert talking about, it was like the first time you'd seen a guy in a Hawaiian shirt in the future. You know, like, they didn't wear Hawaiian shirts, they wore matching jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Or Star Trek uniforms. It was not something that you did.
Yeah. But then when you really think about it, who in which kind of society, like, have you ever thought about throughout all of history, we'll just say all-encompassing history, where everyone essentially wore exactly the same thing and it was perfectly clean?
Yes. Well, those are all military based organizations, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yes, sci-fi has got a bad reputation for this entire planet decided to wear matching jumpsuits.
Yeah, I just think that doesn't make any sense. Like, even something like, say, Star Trek, especially even the movies like Wrath of Khan, everyone's wearing the exact same uniform. I mean, like you said, that's more definitely military wise, but still, it feels like it's perfectly clean. It's like, man, you don't you have it pressed every single morning or what? What's going on?
Well, I love the ball caps, and like I said, and the Hawaiian shirts, and Ripley's got a great outfit. It's like that white vest thing. Yeah, it's amazing. It looks great. Yeah,
I think she was also wearing Converse or something like it.
Yeah, I think what's her name? Lambert was too. I think she wears Converse. I think I caught that in a shot or two.
Yeah.
They've been altered a little bit to look maybe future-y.
Yeah.
But they were definitely just Converse tennis shoes. But people wear Converse tennis shoes now. Yeah. So there's nothing to say that...
Yeah, who says that people won't be wearing it in the next couple 100 years?
And that's something I love about the film that Prometheus didn't get either, is everything felt very analog. Yeah. There was grimy, flipping switches, tube TV kind of a thing. And then we go to Prometheus... I promise we're not going to bash Prometheus the entire time.
Yeah.
But you go to Prometheus, which is supposed to take place before Alien.
Yeah.
And the ship's 5 times more advanced. And they're like, well, it's because it costs more or whatever else, but it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I just can't really believe that it's in the same universe. It just doesn't feel like... Okay, so how do you go from clean, new, and pristine to old, lived in and grimy?
It just doesn't feel right. I mean, I'm sure you can make all kinds of backflip explanations for it and whatever else, but...
Yeah.
So much of that has to set the tone of things. And I didn't look at the time exactly, but we don't see an alien in this movie for, I would guess it's 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that happens that's even dangerous or scary for the first little bit, and yet there is so much tension in that first section of the film.
Yeah.
And that's what's called Alien, first off, so you're waiting for the alien to show up. But two, it has to do with costumes, makeup, cinematography, set design, all of that. Music is a big one. Sets a tone. Do I feel safe here or not?
Yeah.
The answer is no. Yeah. You do not feel safe there.
Yeah, and so the first 30 or 40 minutes where you don't see the alien, it's all building just the darker tones of the scene, the interactions between the different characters, the music, just the setting. It builds tension, and that hey, something just doesn't feel right.
Well, and I love as that builds to the scene where the chest burster thing happens to poor Kane. Poor guy.
Yeah. Well, at least he didn't see it coming, right?
That's true. And I'll tell you one thing else I like is the fact that he's wearing... Does he stick his head over the egg? Yes, he does.
Yeah.
But they set that up, too, because he's very curious.
Yeah.
He wants to go to the ship. He wants to find new things. He's very curious.
He's an explorer.
Which is why I always feel bad that he gets... Because I love that, that in people, when they want to explore things.
Yeah, and then it's just kind of his reward is a painful and violent death. Yeah, and I think that's why I'm a little bit more forgiving with him essentially doing a horror movie 101. Don't stick your face towards something that you don't know what it is, because you're probably going to get killed.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like I said, at least they give him a reason, and he's wearing a spacesuit.
Yeah, I mean,
it's thick glass. And you can see that's one of the things I love about it is he's wearing a spacesuit with thick glass, so he feels a little protected. And when that facehugger goes through the glass and they cut off the helmet, I love it looks like melted glass.
Yeah.
Around it, like acid melted through it or whatever. It looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, you don't go, "Oh, what an idiot." You feel like you understand that he's curious. He feels a little protected because he's got the suit on. I at least am able to forgive the horror movie stuff there because I think they put enough thought into it to make it not. Now they didn't. If I'm going to criticize the movie at all, I will go to when I'm gonna have to look him up. It's let's see, when Brett gets killed.
Yeah.
Brett does the horror movie. I'm going to go off on myself and find the cat. I can't make it sound any better than it is. He does.
Yeah. That's one of the things. Yeah, buddy system. Come on.
Buddy system.
There's more people in there for a reason.
Yeah.
And well, the thing is, he knew that the alien was in there. He knew.
He finds the scale, where it sheds or whatever.
Yeah. When you pick that up at that moment, you're like, the alien's nearby. You gotta get out.
I get out of here.
Get out of here. He's like, I'm gonna keep looking. No. What are you doing? I just want to come up behind him and throw his hat off.
See, that's the only time in the movie when I have one of those. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good because if you watch even like It, I don't know if you saw It.
That's the one with the clown, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe not then if you don't know what it is. But those people in that movie constantly do dumb things to get themselves in danger. Oh, that looks really scary. Let me walk towards it. It bugs me. I'll forgive it in this movie because the acting's so good, everything else is so good, and they only do it the once. I feel like everybody else does pretty logical things.
Yeah, and also this is 1979. Was it even a cliche back then?
It might not have been.
I know. So it's just like maybe they did it once and everyone was, hey, they did that. That's a good idea. No, it wasn't a good idea. It was a bad idea.
And I do love, and it's funny. We've talked about this before a little bit, I think, but Guillermo del Toro, the Mexican filmmaker, who loves kind of fantasy and horror stuff. He was asked what his favorite monster design in history was. And he said the xenomorph, the alien.
Yeah.
And he loves, and his favorite scene in the movie is that scene the one we've been criticizing.
Yeah.
Is his favorite scene. And he talked about the reason was because when he turns around and he sees the alien for the first time, fully grown, right? It's almost like this. And he may be putting too much into it, but he's a really smart guy, so I would trust him more than me. But he said it's this almost like worshipful moment where he's in awe. Of what he's seeing for the first time before he gets snatched. Yeah,
well, I remember the expression on his face. He kind of has this kind of like, it's the awe expression on his face. He doesn't even really scream at first. That's not his first inclination. He screams, of course, when he starts getting mutilated by it. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, ow, I'm getting my face ripped off. But still, it's just like this, he sees the xenomorph for the first time, and it's grown, and it's just like, he's so shocked, he's speechless.
Yes. And it is an interesting moment. And I do love the cat in the scene.
Yeah.
The cat sees it first. And then one of my favorite shots in the movie is the poor Brett. I feel bad for all these guys.
Yeah.
He's getting eaten and he's screaming and it shows the cat's face while it's watching. It makes the cat seem so evil.
Yeah.
The cat's like, I don't know, has this total expression. That got a laugh in the theater too.
Yeah.
When they showed the cat, like, oh, evil cat.
Yeah, it's like the cat, the cat lured him there. It's like, hey, human, you'll get eaten by the alien.
Well, and there's that shot later on when the cat's in the case and the alien comes up and kind of curiously like tips its head like a dog.
Yeah.
Like doesn't know quite what to make of the cat either.
Yeah.
Did you think this? I was going to ask you this. When you first saw the movie, did you ever have a thought that maybe the cat had an alien in it? Did that occur to you at all?
Yeah, no, it really
okay, so that happened to me when I first saw it because the alien goes up to the cat and then they cut away. And then she comes back and she finds the cat again, takes it into the shuttle, and I thought that's what's going to happen. I thought the cat was going to... It doesn't happen.
Yeah, that would have been a nice twist, but I really don't think that there would have been a whole lot of time for them to do that.
Well, I don't know how that would have...
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was so paranoid by that point the first time I saw it that I thought anything was possible. Yeah. I knew the danger wasn't over because you're talking about when they blow up the ship because... The filmmaking tells you the danger's not over.
Yeah. I mean, they play some pleasant music briefly, but then she just goes back to working on the ship. Okay, we're going to get out of here. And the music drains away. I'm like, okay, well, why isn't the movie over? If the movie ended, if it was going to end, it would have ended now. So that means the alien's still there. It's still in there. And then, sure enough, she goes to, one of the hoses or valves to turn something, and it reaches out and almost grabs her.
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting about that part is that I didn't realize it then, or I should have, is that the alien doesn't have any eyes, so it can only detect by smell and sound.
That's true.
So it doesn't immediately go after her because it can't see her.
And then she has to, push it out of its little hole by releasing steam on it.
Yeah.
Or whatever, before she launches it out of the airlock. But, yeah, I think as far as, favorite scenes... Oh, we need to talk about the chest burster real quick.
Yeah.
We need to discuss
that. Yeah, I've been wanting to talk about that.
Okay, go for it. Take us through it.
So, yeah, of course we got, Kane. He's just eating, and everyone thinks, okay, the danger is past.
Oh, you notice Ash is always giving him looks the whole time.
Yeah.
I noticed that this time Ash is like, ha, 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 and then he'll get real serious and look at him.
Yeah.
Because he's waiting for it to happen.
Oh, it's like he knew that would happen.
He knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, if maybe he saw this happen before.
Maybe. Also, they planted in that he's looking at, slides on his computer.
Right.
And you see the little baby alien on the screen.
Oh.
It's got an eye and whatever else. So he knows.
So he knew the whole time that it was inside of him.
And he plays that. If you watch that whole scene, the dinner scene, knowing that he knows what's going to happen, he plays that really well.
That's a nice little touch. I think the greatest, twists in movies are the ones that, it makes sense. So if you pay attention, Ash was definitely, for the alien getting in everybody the whole time.
Yeah.
And so when you see that, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool that they put that in. But yeah, what I thought was, nice about that scene is that, okay, everyone thinks the danger is past, and then he starts, convulsing. It's not immediate. There's a lot of build to it. And something else that was kind of interesting is that I heard that the actors weren't told specifically what was going to happen.
Yes.
And there's even, I don't know if it was in the actual film, but I saw in a documentary the Cartwright, plays Lambert. She actually falls over when the blood explodes.
That's in the film. Yeah, it's a quick shot, but it like squirts on her, and she like kind of starts to slide down, and it cuts away.
Yeah, but she was like legitimately hysterical in that scene, and because and that was real fear because like nobody told her, oh yeah, something's going to explode out of this guy's chest and blood's going to get everywhere.
Like I think they knew because they must have read the script that the alien's supposed to come out of him, but I don't think they had any idea that it was going to be so powerful it was going to get on him.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was the surprise. And nobody knew what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
You know? And even today, there's little touches. Like, the alien, when it comes out of him, has, like, a little vein that's throbbing on the side of its head and stuff. Little things like that make it seem much more real.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll get back to the chest burster scene, but I wanted to mention that one of the reasons the egg and the facehugger look so real is he used sheep parts.
That's right.
Like, he would go to the market every morning, or he'd have somebody go to the market. They'd pick the best sheep intestines and sheep heart and sheep liver, and they'd make a stew out of it.
Oh my gosh.
and put it inside the face hugger or inside the egg.
Yeah, because I noticed that you could see like the little veins and stuff, and I just thought...
Because it is real organic material.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, and then when Ash is dissecting the face hugger, he's pulling out actual organs, and there's like blood and stuff like that looks like it's a real living organism.
Well, and I love when he taps it with his little wand and his fingers.
Oh yeah, it's like a nerve or something. Yeah, reflex thing. It's just like, oh, it's not dead yet.
But yeah, coming to the chest burster scene, like, it's amazing. And I tell you, that was one of the most one of the funnest things about seeing it in a theater, because I was watching it. Several of the guys, there was 2 or 3 guys in front of me who'd never seen it, and I was waiting. I kept watching them during that whole scene. I kind of watched them more than I watched the movie.
You were the Ash of the theater.
That's right. I knew it was going to happen. And one of them like put his hand over his mouth when it was happening. Like he was so shocked. And then as soon as it was over and the alien goes like, and runs across the table, you know, and there's silence in the theater. It was silent for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then it erupted into applause.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing because, like I said, it was just the electricity of that moment with an audience was something else. And that was, like 2 years ago. Can you imagine if you had no idea that it was going to happen? Yeah. And in 1979, and they give you just enough time to be really worried about what's going to happen before it happens. I've also had a lot of people say that women appreciate the scene because it's very similar to childbirth.
Totally. Hopefully,
they're like, yep, it's that bad.
So it's almost like they're saying, how does it feel? Well, I don't think he could feel anything anymore. He's dead.
But that scene definitely, it changes the whole movie. The movie is build up to the facehugger thing, and then it goes up a level. And then as soon as that chest burster thing goes on, we're on a whole new level for the rest of the movie. Yeah. That really does it. And I also think that I love, we're talking about we'll wind up our favorite parts of the movie, but I love when they're trying to cut it off him and the acid goes through the decks. Yeah. Not only is that really smart story-wise, but it's just a really, fun's the wrong word, but it's clever. Yeah. And it's an interesting scene, like, how far is it going to go? And it looks amazing, because I guess they used real acid. Oh, okay. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and I just thought, like, wow, this thing's really dangerous. And I really like it when they show how something is, they show something is dangerous by showing its, abilities and its obstacles. And, like, you said, okay, how far is it going to go? What are its limitations in terms of bleeding, I guess?
And I also love the touch of anytime they try to pull the facehugger off, the tail starts to get tighter around his neck. Things like that. It's the little stuff that makes something work. It's the thinking about, making the egg move on the inside and making it with real parts. It's that kind of perfectionism that I think sets the first movie apart from the other movies. I don't want to talk bad about Aliens because I love Aliens too. Yeah. But the focus is not on that in the second one. The focus on that is making a lot of aliens and making them move very convincingly. Yeah. In this one, there's so much attention to detail that's why this one's always been my favorite. I really feel like it just pushes above that a little bit because of the little attention to detail, and how it looks is another big part of that. So any other scenes you want to touch on before we move on to...
Let's see. Well, I do like the ending scene, of course, when she does, kill the alien. And I like the part where she rushes into the little spacesuit room, and she, slowly climbs in the spacesuit. But as she's doing that, she's, singing. Yes. And I realize that she's singing because she is scared out of her mind. Yeah. And she's trying to do something to calm her. And I kind of wonder about that song, too. Like, where does the song come from? Is it Like, do you remember what song it was?
It's "You Are My Lucky Star."
You Are My Lucky Star. And I kind of wondered, like, was that a song her mom sang to her, or?
Well, there is a history behind that that I've learned about a little bit. I think it was the director's commentary again. They talked about it. That's a real song. I don't know what it is. I've only heard it on the movie.
Okay.
But Sigourney Weaver came up with that idea.
Okay.
She said that exact same thing. Look, I'm terrified. I need to do something to keep my mind off that and keep moving. I bet I would sing. I bet Ripley would sing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Ridley Scott was like, okay. Because that whole scene at the end in the shuttle was not originally there. Mm-hmm. The movie was too short. They felt like it needed another scare. So that was coming at the end of filming. They just kind of improvised that whole last part.
I think that's probably one of the best parts of the movie. Like, it was a really good, death for the alien. Like, she's stressed and she has to be quick on her feet and think about, okay, I thought I blew it up in a giant, nuclear explosion. Now what do I do? I'm in an even smaller ship trapped with that thing with fewer resources. And so she, has to get in the spacesuit. She's like, okay, and putting that together. And just, man, there's just so much tension in that. Like, singing it makes her feel more human.
Well, and the complication was he thought that was a great idea. He let her do it. And then they struggled to get the rights to the song. Oh. And, apparently it was very expensive to get the rights to the song.
Really?
And the studio was like, well, we're not going to pay for it, so just cut that scene out. And he was like, no, the scene's really good. So there was a fight for a while, and eventually they decided to pay for the rights. Oh. So we almost lost the shuttle scene over that song.
Oh, boy.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, man. I feel like sometimes copyrights and stuff always get in the way of making a good film.
But I was noticing with her acting, especially in that last scene, that's some of the most convincing portrayal of fear in any movie. I mean, they're all really good throughout the whole thing, but she really takes it up to another level at the end there. Yeah. And it's not just screaming. It's like I said, it's I'm terrified, but I can't be terrified right now.
Yeah.
I have other things to do. She's playing multiple levels.
Right.
I really like that. And this was actually her first movie, I want to say.
Yeah, that's right. I believe she was 30 at the time, and she'd done some theater beforehand. And strangely enough, I think she benefited the most from this movie than all the other actors.
I know. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are very respected actors now. But as far as star status, yeah, she's the one that came out a star.
Yeah.
From the movie. And I remember the way she got cast is the studio didn't want her again. But Ridley Scott wanted her, and what he did is he did a screen test with her. And if you watch the screen test, it's on the discs.
Right.
It's a really fancy screen test. They've got a set set up. She's in makeup and costume and everything else. It's a very good screen test. He showed it to all the women in the office.
Okay.
And he showed it to his secretary and all that. And he said all the women were the ones that convinced the studio, yeah, we really like her. She's somebody we can get behind.
Yeah. Because actually, Cartwright was going to originally play
I heard that, yeah.
Ripley. And
she had more film experience.
Yeah.
So I know I saw her in something else before. I think she was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Right. Yeah, I remember her character. I've actually seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
But she kind of she plays a similar character in that one. She's
hysterical.
Yeah, hysterical. And what's kind of sad is that you think that she'd be the last person to survive, and she almost does. And at the end, she gets taken by these body snatchers.
Well, that's the last shot of the movie.
Yeah, like the guy,
she sees Donald Sutherland and...
Yeah, and she thinks, oh, hey, it's the real one. No, he's been body snatched. That's another good movie. Maybe we should talk about that sometime.
Yeah, it's a great movie. We could talk about all the versions of that. The 50s one's good, too. Well, and that actually talks me to something that we want to talk about here a little bit, and Roger Ebert brings that up, is The Thing from Another World.
Right.
Which influences this movie a lot. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen that one.
It's a little more obscure.
Yeah. You're talking about the 50s one, right?
Yes.
What I think is interesting about that is Alien borrowed ideas from that, and then The Thing in 1984 borrowed ideas from Alien.
Yes.
So it borrowed ideas from a movie that borrowed ideas from the movie that they're remaking.
Well, and to be fair, the remake was very aware of the original, too. Mm-hmm. But yes, there are some updates that came from Alien. And The Thing came out before any of the sequels to Alien. So it wasn't copying any of the sequels, but it did take some stuff from Alien. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I wanted to touch on a couple of things real quick.
Yep.
That I really enjoyed. I that's right. I want to talk about Giger a little bit.
Right.
H.R. Giger. He did a book of art called the Necronomicon.
Right.
And that's what caught everybody's eye. Some of the things I think he deserves a lot of credit for the success of the movie. Mm-hmm. Because if the monster was laughable, or if the monster didn't seem real,
or if it looked like a beach ball,
which is from
Star Beast.
Oh, Starbase was what they were going to call it originally, but they worked on another movie. It was called something else.
Oh yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I forget what it was called. Okay, I think it's under the.
It was John Carpenter's first movie, actually.
John Carpenter's first movie, and O'Bannon was a part of that one. I think I wrote.
And he was very disappointed with it. I remember that.
Yeah, well, it was originally a student film, and then
Dark Star.
Yeah, there we go. That's the one.
And that was John Carpenter's first movie. Who would direct the remake of The Thing later on?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one that has that beach ball for an alien in it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but
yeah,
it's kind of like a cult classic now. People really like it.
Huh.
So it's a comedy though.
Oh, right.
It's not serious.
I see. Okay, now it being a beach ball makes more sense.
Anyway, I love the touch of the no eyes. That's phenomenal. Something about that is just not right. And if we're going to compare the design of the alien in the first one to the sequels, they never improved upon it. They changed it, but in my opinion, they never improved upon it.
Yeah.
They made it more like less smooth, and they changed the color, and they did stuff. It never got better.
Yeah. The thing is with like say just comparing designs in terms of like aliens, they made it less smooth on it because apparently they were afraid it would break or something while they're doing stuff.
And again, motion was the key in the second one.
Yeah, because just the fact it is terrifying to see a couple dozen aliens coming at you, running at you, or climbing on walls, coming out of the ceiling. So that's where they were going with that. So I understand the different change.
But for me, like I said, I think the design never got better.
Right.
It only got worse. It was one of those things that kind of nailed the first time out.
Yeah, it's catching lightning in a bottle kind of
Yes, exactly. And that includes the face hugger and the egg and the ship.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And especially, like I said, the space jockey, which is probably my favorite design in the movie. But we shouldn't go past talking about the alien without talking about the guy who played the alien.
Right.
And again, very hard name to pronounce.
Yeah, that was Balaj Badejo.
There you go.
I really hope I'm saying... I hope I'm not... If he's still alive, I hope I'm not...
Like, seriously. Well, he did amazing work in this movie.
Yeah, he actually practiced, Tai Chi to make the movements more convincing, because that's one thing that really unnerved me, is that it doesn't move like a human.
No.
It's very... Like there's the one part, I forget which scene it is, but it has its arms outstretched, and it's, moving kind of slowly.
That's when it's killing Parker and
Lambert. Yeah, that
Yeah.
part is just like, man, what's it going to do? How's it going to do this? Like, I can't predict its movement.
And I also love, if you see pictures of him, he's a very skinny guy.
Yeah.
Tall and skinny. And movement's essential to a creature. And he does a great job. And also, it's helped along, I've noticed this, especially in that last scene in the shuttle, there's like a flashing light that goes by. And with that kind of flashing light, it makes the movement kind of choppy. Mm-hmm. But his movements are very smooth. So it has this really unnerving, almost insect-like quality. And you have to give him credit for that. And he was not an actor. He was just a guy who physically fit the proportions right.
Right.
And he really put a lot into it, I'm very impressed with his work. And I think it doesn't ever get mentioned when you're talking about it very often.
You think it would be. I mean, he's kind of quintessential. Like, okay, the guy wearing the alien costume, he's kind of a big deal.
And also, they do a lot to make it not look like a guy in a suit.
Yeah. I felt like it was an actual, alien. I don't see a zipper or anything like that. I don't see any part of the alien that looks fake. Even the close-ups where you see its mouth coming out and the tongue with the teeth, that looks real. And I also like they added the touch of giving it saliva and it drooling. Mm-hmm. And I always like to think, the part where Brett, he walks and you see the water trickling down from the ceiling. I like to think when some of it hits him on the forehead, I like to think that's some of the saliva from the alien.
It is a very wet movie. I'll give you that. Like, everybody's sweating, or there's... And, you think about in a spaceship, that's another thing. Spaceships don't have water in them.
Yeah.
But in Ridley Scott's world, they're dripping water. And again, that's something he talked about in the commentary. Somebody asked him, and was like, why is there water in a spaceship? Yeah. He's like, it's condensation. It had nothing to do with that. He wanted it. He liked the way it looked and felt.
Yeah. And also I think it adds to the tension, these people are sweating. It's kind of, it's not a pristine, clean spaceship like, say, something like Star Trek.
Yes. Yeah,
you're going to sweat in it. It's going to be gross. It's got grimy parts to it.
And I also love when he does extreme close-ups, which as the movie starts to end, he gets tighter and tighter on Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
And there's one shot that's just like her fingernails pulling herself over this thing, and it's just her eyes, and I love it. And the thing that makes it come alive is she's soaked in sweat.
Yeah.
Not only is she terrified, but she's running up and down corridors.
Yeah.
There's real three-dimensional visual quality to everything.
Yeah.
So again, it's those attention to detail that really makes that work.
Yeah, and also just that scene in general. I wanted to know. I really like that scene because when she's running down the hallway, she's not just running down the hallway. She's constantly checking over her shoulder.
Yes.
She's doing the flamethrower back there, or in front of her. It's like she's she's really frustrated. She's really terrified, and she's afraid the alien's gonna pop out at any second.
Well, she's always in character.
Yeah.
There was never okay, I'm running in a spaceship. Okay, cut. Da, da. No, she's in the moment.
Yeah.
That's another thing about hiring really good, really hungry actors. Mm-hmm. Sigourney, I'm sure, was very hungry. It was her first movie. She really wanted to prove herself.
Yeah.
So she's putting 110% in. And then you have, like I said, John Hurt, Harry Dean Stanton, and especially Ian Holm. Mm-hmm. Ian Holm was a respected actor at the time. He would done a lot of British theater. Mm-hmm. He, of course, was not Bilbo yet. But
he was Bilbo?
Yes.
Oh, okay. From the original Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know.
So yeah, but I think I love the fact that again, science fiction was a second-class genre. Mm-hmm. It was B-movie stuff. But then it starts to change with 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then with Star Wars. And by the time Alien comes along, you can really get quality actors in this stuff. And you can tell. They're an acting troupe, and I think they love the fact that they can improvise a lot. Yeah. And when you get that many talented people together in a pressure cooker, and they're all really wanting to prove themselves and also maybe compete, you get great performances.
Yeah, and one thing I kind of liked is that in the documentary where they're talking about the actors, apparently sometimes Ridley Scott he wouldn't be super hands-on with actors. He kind of give them a general idea of what they were going to do, and he would just say, I don't really want to micromanage you guys, just do it. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I thought that was great because it made more organic interactions.
And that and actors love that kind of freedom. At least certain kinds of actors do, I'm sure. And it also, the fact that Ridley Scott had only made one other film at the time. And so you get, again, a very hungry director. Yeah. He really wants to prove himself. Everybody on this movie nobody was sleepwalking through this. Nobody was phoning this in. I don't know if you've ever seen Ridley Scott's first movie. It's this really obscure. It's called The Duelists.
Yeah, I don't think I've never seen it.
Really obscure. It took me years to find it. When I finally found it, it's fantastic. It's like period piece movie about dueling and stuff.
Like old fencing dueling?
Well, and pistols and everything else. It's like the French Revolution. Anyway, he makes it very real. People sweat, people bleed, things are dirty, And that's the nice thing about it. It's a period piece where everybody's in, wigs and whatever else, but it's a very lived-in thing.
Yeah. I've never liked it because sometimes people think that, how something was painted in the painting, that's exactly how it looked. No, people don't want to show you their acne or their dirt or their sweat and their gross-looking clothes in the paintings. They want to show you their best. So I always feel like every time everyone was walking on set, with pristine, clean uniforms in any time period, they're just it feels fake.
Well, and I think it's relevant because that's the same thing he did with science fiction. Mm-hmm. Is he took the period piece and he made it grimy and real, and then he did science fiction and made it grimy and real. He'd done thousands of commercials before that. He was a commercial director for many years, but then he went into films doing these two. And so he was not comfortable with actors, but he was very comfortable with craft. And one of the reasons the models still look good to this day is he did not hire out a company to do the models. He did. He wasn't happy with the work. He went and filmed the special effects himself. Oh. He went and filmed the models. So if you're seeing a model shot, he probably ran the camera on it.
So when you say model, you're referring to the spaceship?
The exterior shots of the spaceships, yes.
Okay, yeah, and those look really nice. It's a little bit more slower paced. I heard what they essentially did was they just made the camera go by the ship to give it the appearance of movement. But that is one thing that I like that you mentioned is that he wasn't really great with actors. There's actually a part where apparently he snapped at Sigourney Weaver and it's like, I shouldn't have to motivate you to move your effing teacup and stuff. And apparently Sigourney cried and then he apologized later. Hey, look, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell that to what was his name, Kane or John Hurt.
Oh,
Yeah, so I just thought that was kind of interesting that, I mean, he didn't work well with actors, but it's not like he's just a complete jerk off.
No. But he got better, I'm sure. Yeah. As things went along. But even that tension may have helped the film.
Yeah.
Because they're always stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah, and also Sigourney Weaver, like to add more to the tension, she thought she was allergic to the cat for some time because of the glycerin in the fur mixed in. She was like sneezing, and then they found out that it was just the cat. So she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to be Sigourney. She wouldn't be able to be Ripley because of her allergies. And when I really think about it, it's totally a girl thing. Like they get hung up about like small things.
Well, she may have not had. It was probably fresh on her mind because John Hurt wasn't going to play Kane originally. There's shots of another actor playing it, and he had really bad diabetes.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, like he didn't know he had it or something, and he ended up going to the hospital and being super sick.
Yeah, I heard he got really sick. Like there's one scene where they were trying to do a scene, and they just look at him. He has this pale look to him, and he's like, "How do you feel?" Like, I feel terrible.
So that's why John Hurt came in. So she probably saw that happen.
Right.
And then was on edge. And also it's her first big movie.
Yeah, so you stress out a bit on those those tiny things. So I think I can understand now that. Yeah, I think I would probably be that way if it was my first movie. Like, oh no.
Well, Jimmy Stewart, right? When he was playing in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which was one of his big breakout roles, would never drive apparently over 25 miles an hour in his car because he didn't want to wreck and die before he finished his big break movie. So it may be an actor thing more than a girl thing.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't know. I guess I just don't know it's context. You gotta know the context.
Yes, exactly.
Because I never thought about that. Yeah, it makes sense.
You want to get it done. I want to talk about the music real quick.
Yeah.
One of the notes you left on here, I did not know about this. Apparently, some of the scenes early on in the film, was it work he'd done on another movie that got put in? It says here some of his work on Freud was used in the scene where the pods open up.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I was watching that in a different documentary. The thing is, I didn't know this before watching the behind the scenes, and I also watched some documentaries on YouTube. Is that sometimes people reuse scores from other movies?
Yes,
I didn't know that was a thing.
It's becoming more and more common, actually.
Yeah, but I thought, well, hey, if it works, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's so I just didn't know that opening because one of the most interesting pieces of music is when the pods open up.
Yeah,
I just thought it was fascinating. It wasn't even written for Alien; it was written for something else.
Yeah, so now it kind of changes like context. Like, okay, so what was this originally written for? But I mean, it can be used for something else and still have a different feeling. Yeah,
when you pair an image with music, it always changes one or the other. They enhance each other. So I thought that was interesting. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about?
Okay. Well, I kind of went over different like little side stories, a lot of behind the scene things, technical standouts.
Let's talk about the different versions of the film. Right.
Yeah, I've been wanting to talk about that.
So we both have seen the director's cut on the original. You've seen the director's cut much more recently than I have.
Yeah.
The theater showing that I keep referencing, that was the director's cut.
Okay.
So that was about 2 years ago I saw that. There's a couple. The big main differences that we could remember was, and the first one has to do with Cartwright and Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley. You want to talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah. So in the original version, obviously Cartwright's upset that Ripley won't let her in, and then they just go straight to dissecting the spacesuit and getting off him. But in the director's cut, I really liked how Lambert is legitimately angry at Ripley for not letting him in, and she slaps her really hard. And the story behind that is kind of interesting because Cartwright tried several times to hit Sigourney Weaver, and she kept ducking. I'm just like, why are you ducking? You're supposed to get hit. And when she actually did hit her, Sigourney Weaver started crying because she was surprised and got hit really hard, and she was upset. He's like, Ripley shouldn't cry. He's too tough for that. But I just thought that had so much more, it just felt like a more real interaction. Like, yeah, I'd be kind of pissed too if somebody just locked me outside of the spaceship and my friend's dying. Yeah, I want to hit somebody.
It does too. I noticed that this time watching the theatrical version, it does kind of skip along past what should be an emotional beat there. So I'll give you that one. The other huge scene that gets added back in is at the end of the film when Ripley finds at least Dallas hung up in a room in a bunch of cocoon goo stuff.
Yeah.
And there might have been some other crew members in there. I can't remember.
Brett was in there, but his face was kind of kind of melted over. Like it was the part where the alien got him.
Okay.
And it almost kind of looked like he was already gone. And then Dallas is like, kill me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's like, he has barely any life in him, and he just has enough energy to say, I want to die.
Well, then she torches the whole place, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, she does that, and I'm just thinking, that's not a very pleasant way to go either, being burned alive. But then again, I guess it's kind of, okay, wait for the alien to come back and finish eating you, or get burned alive. It's, I don't know, which is worse.
Well, and here's my issue with the scene. My issue with the scene is not the way it looks or how creepy it is. Very creepy.
Yeah.
It's very effective. But I think he was right to remove it in the first place, because that happens after the self-destruct is going. And after you've started to self-destruct in a movie, you don't have time to stop for detours at all.
Yeah.
You know, and it feels like that whole, in the theatrical cut, as soon as she starts to self-destruct to the end, it just moves. You know, like, and you're always against the clock. And that scene kills the momentum for me.
Yeah, it kind of breaks up the flow, you know.
And I feel better because I remember if you watch, there's an introduction to the director's cut on the disc, and it's not really a director's cut. He talks about how they wanted to call it that for a re-release, and that was fine, and they were going to do it with or without him, because they were like, we want to re-release Alien. He's like, fantastic. And they're like, we want to do a director's cut. And he's like, well, the theatrical cut is my director's cut. Like, I'm happy with it. It's great. Like, well, we have to do something to sell it with. We're going to have to add extra scenes back in. Do you want to do it? You want somebody else to do it? And he's like, well, I'll do it if it's going to happen. And so he did have a hand in it, but his preferred version of the film is the theatrical cut.
Okay.
So, not that means that you can't like the director's cut better. You know, you can have your own opinion.
Yeah.
But as far as like directorial intent, the theatrical one is the one that he likes better.
Okay.
It's kind of the opposite of Blade Runner. Blade Runner, theatrical cut's the one he hates.
Yeah, I personally like the director's cut more, but I do agree that the part where she walks in, she finds Dallas and Brett both mutilated. It kind of, you know, breaks up the pacing of the movie. I like the director's cut more for the interaction between Lambert and Ripley, because it creates more character interaction, which makes them feel like real people.
Cool. Well, I wanted to also discuss the legacy of the film, things that it's influenced, how we're still seeing it today.
Well, I mean, you mentioned before we got into this how Nolan North took some notes on Alien in his Batman Begins movie.
Yes. That was his pitch to the studio. He's like, well, I want to make Batman more like Alien. And at first, they were all understandably like, what? You know?
Yeah, what, you want him to implant mini Batmans inside of people?
First off, I'd watch that. But
comes out of the guy's just, I'm Batman.
That's right. That's great. Who wouldn't watch that?
Anyway, yeah.
But the idea is that he's scary.
Yeah.
You know, and he operates out of the shadows. You don't see him very much.
Yeah.
Now, that was the original pitch. It got changed, of course, as it went along, and they evolved. But you can really see that in the film, the very first time Batman shows up in Batman Begins, when he's taking out Falcone's men on the dock.
Yeah.
That whole scene is shot from the point of view of the bad guys.
Yeah.
And Batman in that scene is a scary monster.
Yeah.
He jumps out of the dark, he snatches people away, and they're gone.
Yeah.
That's Alien.
Yeah, like one of the best parts is the part where the guy is, you know, like he's freaking out. He's like, he's stressed. He's shooting his machine gun. He's like, "Where are you?" And then he comes like right behind him, like, "Here." and the guy's like, "Oh."
See, when I went and saw that again in the theater, I'd only seen the Tim Burton Batmans before that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to state what a seismic shift that was. I remember when we came out of the movie, I was like, my gosh, Batman's scary. I had no idea, you know.
Yeah, but that was the Batman I was introduced when I was growing up. That's just, I guess, my generation. So I thought that's how he was also always supposed to be.
Hey, you're not wrong.
And I mean, and then I went back and I watched the animated cartoons, the '90s ones with Kevin Conroy.
Those are really good, by the way.
Yeah, which I know I bagged on the original Batman movie in the '80s with Michael Keaton, but I realized, you know, the animated cartoons with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill wouldn't exist without that movie.
Yes.
So I mean, it made those cartoons and Batman Begins, they made Batman scary, and I really thought about it, like, yeah, he would be scary. He would legitimately, you know, be scary, and it does take a lot of, you know, like I said, takes notes from Alien, where like they minimize his appearance when he's fighting the gangsters. He's not, they don't have spotlights shown on him.
Nope.
He's like here and then he's not here. There's a gangster and then he's an unconscious gangster. Even the part where Falcone comes out of the car and he walks up to all his guys being beat up. You don't see a clear shot of Batman, but you do
flashes.
Yeah, but you do see a reaction in Falcone's face, and he has this horrified expression on his face, which reminds me of Brett's expression when the alien, comes up behind him. It's just like this look of shock and awe.
See, he gets a lot from Alien. He's like, Christopher Nolan loves Ridley Scott. He borrows, and actually, not only did he borrow some from Alien, but he had the entire crew watch Blade Runner before they started Batman Begins.
Huh.
So the world's very Blade Runner, and some of those scenes are very Alien. And so it's interesting to see, and that's just one example. I'm sure you could pull out so many examples of how Aliens influence us now. The funnest one that I just saw was recently a high school in New Jersey. I don't know if we talked about this or not yet.
I don't think so.
North Bergen High School decided to do their high school play, Alien. And if you look up on YouTube, I encourage you to look this up on YouTube. There's some videos of it. It is fantastic. And they just it's not a high, it's not kind of a poorer area, so they didn't have a lot of money. So they just used a lot of trash and whatever else, and they built the space jockey. Mm-hmm. They built an alien suit. They did all this stuff, and they did the whole play. There's the scene where the chest burster comes out. They've got an actor on a table with the rest of his body underneath the table, with puppet stuff coming out of the table. The face hugger, they did it all.
Yeah,
I thought that was. You should look it up because it's a lot of fun, and I love the fact that teenagers are watching Alien still.
Yeah.
So,
what's it called again?
It was North Bergen High School, Bergen. If you just type in Alien High School play, I'm sure it'll come up. But there's a couple of scenes of it, and it's just nice to see people really embracing film history.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, you constantly have it referenced to, like, every time an Alien movie comes out, or I feel like Alien's always the movie that people point to as kind of like the forerunner for all, good Alien movies.
Yeah, and I think my favorite spoof of it is in Spaceballs. Have you seen Spaceballs?
I haven't seen Spaceballs.
Okay, well, there's a scene where they go to a diner. It's making fun of Star Wars.
Okay.
Mostly. But there's one scene that makes fun of Alien. And in the diner, somebody orders the blue plate special or something. Huh. And then after they eat it, an alien pops out of them and then does a dance number down the bar. And then as soon as the dance number is over, everybody else goes, check please. No, really, it's funny. Anyway, it's entered the culture.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm excited to see continue. Now, the future of Alien movies is in question. Mm-hmm. Because Alien is owned by 20th Century Fox. Mm-hmm. 20th Century Fox was just bought by Disney. And so now Disney owns the Alien franchise. Which is a weird thing for my mouth to say.
Yeah, Disney owns Alien. Yeah, that is really weird.
Now, I wasn't super happy with the direction that the franchise was going. So maybe this is a chance for them to change it up, whatever else. They're apparently going to keep Fox as a brand, and they'll release scarier, rated R stuff under the Fox brand.
Right.
So they're not going to eliminate it and make it into a Disney film.
Yeah, because I don't want it to be like, okay, all of a sudden the alien's attacking, and then all of a sudden it breaks out into an evil song about how it's going to kill all the humans.
Find his purpose.
Yeah, find his purpose, and I'm just like, please, no, just don't.
So I don't know what's going to happen. But I am excited just to have somebody take a stab at it. I feel like maybe you let Ridley Scott finish his trilogy he was working on. Yeah. Even though I'm not crazy about it, it'd be nice to see where he's going. Or give some new up-and-comer a shot at it. Yeah. Again, somebody who's hungry, right?
Yeah, another new hungry actor who just wants to go all out.
Yes. Yeah. Do unknowns with like some really good character actors in there. Yeah. That'd be great.
I think that would be really good because that's one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of the newer Star Wars movies, but I do actually kind of admire them for kind of following the tradition of using unknown actors. Like, who's this? Because they feel more like real characters, not, oh, hey, look, it's this famous actor or that famous actor. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that would be a good direction to go in, and maybe just make a whole nother storyline. And don't copy what was in Alien, but copy the themes.
Yes, and try to make the simplest, scariest movie that you can. I think that's everything else has gone so over top. And also, I would be really pleased to see them get back to practical stuff. Yeah, let's get a guy in a suit again. Let's build actual sets. Yeah, that don't have holograms everywhere.
Yeah, with the leathery eggs and stuff. That's one of my problems with Prometheus is that. Well, I could tell that when there was CG. I could tell when that's not real. It just there was a lot of fakeness to it because a lot of the newer effects got in the way of making it look real.
And as I said, again, however you feel about the new Star Wars movies, and I understand there's lots of opinion on those, they've worked pretty hard, especially for big budget movies, to try and do things practically.
Yeah, that is one thing I will give them credit for. Like, they make the sets, they make the costumes, they keep CGI to a very bare minimum. Yep. They even like say when they're doing like say lightsaber duels, I like how it's actually them fighting. There's not a whole lot of stuntmen at work except maybe the guys in the red who gets ground up in the grinder.
Well, and also I think the best example of what we're talking about, the if you want to take a movie this is what you need to do with Alien. It's Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
The sequel that just came out. They did use some CG, but they used a lot of model work. They built a ton of sets, and everything felt very analog. It felt very like when there's one scene in the film. I'm assuming you haven't seen it because you haven't seen the first one.
I haven't seen any of them. No.
Okay.
And I don't want to.
I won't spoil it.
Okay.
I won't spoil it. But there's a scene when he's looking through the new guy, played by Ryan Gosling, is looking through some genetic records, and it's this giant box of a machine that he turns dials on, and you can hear it whirring and whatever else, and then it comes up on this screen that looks like a screen from the 80s.
Yep.
You know, and it's amazing what a difference that makes.
Yeah.
When you take the aesthetics of something and you put those aesthetics on the new project, it feels like it belongs.
Yeah.
It feels like it's part of the same story. You know, and I think that's key if you're going to go forward in the Alien franchise. Get back to grimy, real truck stop bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, kind of stuff.
If I know I don't want to bag on Prometheus too much, but I'm going back to Prometheus.
Yes.
There's a scene in that movie where they're looking at the layout of the alien ship. This guy throws these balls and they like somehow like scan the whole ship. Which okay, fine, go ahead. But then you actually see the visual and it's like this hologram thing. And if I'm comparing it to that versus when Ripley's in the computer with Mother, I prefer the room where Ripley's in with Mother because that feels more tangible.
Yes.
Where I feel like the guy is essentially looking at nothing and then they just do the CG over it later.
Well, and also, how can we map the entire thing and then how can we get lost later on?
Yeah.
That's the thing I find so dumb. Oh, this entire thing's mapped. Where are we?
Oh, right.
Sorry, we're not gonna. Okay, we're done.
Okay, no more bashing Prometheus. I don't know. I guess it's just inevitable to compare it to Alien, but
it's the same filmmaker, and I love Ridley Scott. I don't hold it against him. I mean, he tried something that didn't work for me. That's fine.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes it's best to try something new, take chances, rather than not try at all and try to play it safe. And I think that's why Alien worked is because it was a lot of new stuff. I mean, an alien impregnating somebody and changing what it looks like 3 different times. Everyone kind of a lot of hungry actors. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of chances taken with this movie.
Well, and I said I'd recommend. I mean, it's had so many home video releases. The first time I ever saw it was on VHS, like we talked about. It's been on DVD, Blu-ray. Now it's on 4K disc. It just came out. I just watched it on the 4K, and it's amazing. You can tell the care that went into everything because the more definition we see, right? And now at 4K, you're almost seeing everything that's on the film now. It's not like they brightened it up. It's still very dark. Mm-hmm. But as far as detail goes, you can see almost everything, and it does not fall apart. If anything, it enriches the experience because there was so much thought put into the signs in the ship. How the ship looked, how was it lit, the costumes, the makeup, the alien. It's one of those movies that holds up because the more you look into it, the better it is. It doesn't fall apart under scrutiny. It blossoms under scrutiny. And that's not going to change. I think that's going to keep going for another 40 years probably. Yeah.
The only part in the movie that I did think looked a little bit it didn't look very real was
Dodgy.
Of course dodgy.
Yeah.
Was the part where she blows up the Nostromo. That didn't look like a real explosion.
That's true. That's true. It's kind of colors.
Yeah. And I just thought, well, I mean, all right, fine. It's a spaceship in space, and I don't know, maybe explosions are different in the future. So I don't worry too much about it. It actually kind of reminded me of the explosion of the spaceship in Independence Day when they fly out of space.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I kind of wondered, did they like borrow from that? Because it has like that blue, all-encompassing, flash to it.
And then when the shockwaves hits the ship in Independence Day, you see the camera and it's shaking like crazy. Yeah. And it's all white. That's from Alien too.
Yeah. No, I didn't think about it. Like I said, all Alien movies after Alien, like they took notes from that one, at least they should have. The good ones did.
Well, Independence Day has that whole scene in the surgery room.
It has a tentacle around the guy's neck. Yeah.
Yep, just like the facehugger and everything else. Yeah. Yep, it is ground zero for those kind of movies. Now, the last thing I'll talk about is here's what I want to suggest to you. I think that this movie makes a perfect trilogy with 2 other movies. So if you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey first, and then you watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and then you watch Alien, it is what I call it's my Alien trilogy. Because in
Right.
2001: A Space Odyssey, first off, all three films are very poetic. And there's, talk about attention to detail, almost unparalleled in all three films. Every shot is a work of art, and every design is great. But in 2001: A Space Odyssey, you have aliens that are presented as unknowable.
Okay.
They are this, we can never understand them. They are this, they're not good, they're not bad, they're just unknowable and awe-inspiring. In Close Encounters, they're very benevolent, and they want to help us, and they're a great thing. And in an Alien, it's totally malevolent. So it's this wonderful, every kind of way an alien can be, portrayed.
Right. Okay. I can understand that. Yeah.
And so you watch all three of them. Not only are they probably the three best made science fiction films of all time, they all have kind of these parallel themes, but they take a very different tack on it. So if you really want to pig out on poetic, well-made sci-fi alien films, that's the triple play I would recommend.
Okay. Yeah. I've actually it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah, I actually got to watch that in my film studies class. And,
there you go.
Yeah, and I like that. Just as a brief little side note, is that you mentioned that in that movie they're more benevolent. But what I thought was interesting is that a lot of the humans, they don't see it that way. In the one mother, her son gets kidnapped. Her first interaction with the aliens. Although I did wonder, why did they kidnap? I never got the answer why they kidnapped everybody.
I think the middle of the movie needed tension, but
yeah,
and it's also the kid's not scared at all.
Yeah,
the entire time he's opening the door.
Yeah, he's going towards the spaceship. So it kind of makes you wonder, it seems like they are not hostile. So you're still afraid of them, but you don't know their intentions entirely.
Well, and it's interesting because you look at how people are treated in each movie.
Yeah.
If you're an explorer in 2001: A Space Odyssey, your odds of dying or of finding something incredible are equal. Mm-hmm. A lot of people die in that movie. A lot of people find amazing things. Well, one guy does. Mm-hmm. And in 2001, or in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, if you're open to new experiences and you want to welcome the aliens in, then they love you and it's going to be great. And curiosity is a thing to be encouraged. And in the Alien universe, if you're curious, you get a parasite in the face.
You die.
Yeah. So different views, different perspectives. On
right. Yeah. Like you said, it's just each movie shows aliens in a different conceivable light. Like they are either actually that kind of reminds me of. I'm going back to Signs again. There's a part where the kid is talking about the aliens and they have either two purposes. One, they're here to help us and maybe improve our technology. Or two, they're hostile. They've run out of resources and they intend to destroy us.
One thing I like about Alien is you never find out what the alien wants because it doesn't really want anything.
Yeah.
And Ash talks about this when he's unplugged or whatever. It doesn't have morality. It doesn't have conscience. It has nothing. It's just, and we don't know. And again, this is the thing I don't want explained to me. Was it designed this way? Did nature make it this way? I don't know. I don't care. I want to be able to think about it and have it a mystery. But it is the perfect mechanism for killing.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. It isn't because it needs food. It isn't because it, its world has been used up or whatever. Yeah. It's never explained.
Yeah.
And to be honest, in Signs, they never really explain it either.
Yeah, they don't.
They just kind of, it could be this, and they go on.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the movie so much more fun is the theorizing and the thinking that comes after it.
Yeah.
With the xenomorph, I kind of don't really want to know where it came from. It's it's a force of nature. It's hostile. It's dangerous. It's unpredictable.
Yep.
And I think that's the charm to the alien is that, like you said, you don't know what it wants, and you aren't always sure how it's going to behave.
Well, and I'm not bagging on Independence Day. I like Independence Day. It's a fun movie. But there's not a lot to talk about after Independence Day.
Yeah.
Alien, there's a lot to chew on.
Yeah. Yeah, Independence Day is a popcorn movie. It's just kind of fun to see the action and stuff. Oh, look, New York City's blowing up. Okay, that's probably a sore subject for some people, but...
Well, and it wasn't at the time, but...
Yeah, well, right.
Before.
Yeah, before the 9/11.
But yeah, I really do think this is one movie that's going to keep enduring, and that's why I love that story about the play, because even high schoolers... although, to be honest, I was shocked that they were old enough to watch it. Although I watched it in middle school, so I'm a hypocrite. But they're embracing this stuff. It's not just ew, that's old.
Yeah.
It can get past that with some people, and that gives me hope.
Yeah, and I had a lot more fun, watching this old movie than some newer movies. Honestly, I feel like I keep going back to Prometheus. But I guess there's just something Ridley Scott captured in an alien that I guess like I said, it's like capturing lightning in a bottle.
Mm-hmm. Well, and young Ridley Scott's a different person than old Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
And you can't always go back to those roots and find the same thing there. Yeah. But like I said, I love this movie. I'm really glad we got a chance to really talk about it. Yeah. Kind of dig into it for an hour and 40 minutes.
Really? That's how long we've been talking? Okay, well, there was a lot to say, so I'm glad we did that.
And I look forward to talking about the other movies in the series, too. For me, this is the pinnacle. I don't know if this is your favorite of the ones you watched.
I think it's really good. Like, I think I would definitely classify it as a masterpiece. But I'm more... I like action just a little bit more than these kind of movies.
Yeah.
Which isn't bagging on these kind of movies.
Sure.
So I think I lean a little bit more towards Aliens because I think I just had more fun watching that movie.
And I think quality-wise, they're probably equal. Yeah. They're both insanely well made, very creative. And I really look forward to talking about Aliens, too, because I love that movie. It's just personal taste. If Alien is poetry, Aliens is narrative. It's prose. Mm-hmm. It's a story well told. And I'm just more of a poetry guy when it comes to movies. I think I've talked about these movies with lots of people, and first off, their favorite is always one or the two. It's never Alien 3 or Alien Resurrection. Yeah. But of those two, it's about half and half. Yeah. Of the 20, 30 people I've talked to, no movie has a clear advantage. It's just, it comes down to taste.
Yeah, and I think that's really how it is for me. It just, like you said, it's taste, and I mean, sometimes I really do like the slower paced, quieter movies. Like I'm a huge fan of M. Night Shyamalan's movies, mm-hmm. and there's not a single explosion in any of them. I don't think. I've only seen Sixth Sense, Signs.
See, now I'm going back to it.
Unbreakable and Split. I haven't seen Glass yet, but as far as
I think you're right. I don't think there is. I haven't seen Last Airbender.
You probably shouldn't. I don't bag on him as much as everybody else. I just think that just wasn't the right movie for him.
Sure. But all right, well, we look forward to going over the rest of the films in the series.
Okay, yeah.
As they come, we're going to take our time with these. I mean, with this one, we watched the films, documentaries, listened to commentaries. We really got into it.
Yeah, let's. I guess we could just do the same next time.
Absolutely. And I said Aliens. There's a ton of documentaries out there and commentaries, and it's going to be really fascinating to talk about the special edition cut versus the theatrical cut on that one.
Ah, yeah.
Because that one I have different feelings about. And,
right, yeah.
And the different cuts of that one are very... It's much more drastic than it is with the first film.
That's right.
It changes the movie a lot more. And the behind the scenes in that is just as interesting as it is in the first one. So
yeah, especially with the different directors, and I don't know as much about it because I haven't done the research, but it'll be interesting to find out what different what pitfalls the directors and actors faced.
And they're very different than the pitfalls in this one, but it was no less stressful. Oh yeah, I'll tell you that.
Well, I feel like the best movies have a lot of stress behind them.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? Like it seems like the movies that you have a really good time making don't turn out very good, and the ones that were just torture sometimes real good stuff comes out of those.
Yeah, I've seen different behind the scenes for movies like I don't know if you ever watched open season movies.
No,
they're animated. They're okay, but the sequels are horrible. The first one's kind of funny, but yeah, the actors and the people who made the movie were genuinely happy about the movie, and I honestly thought the movie was complete crap.
See, there you go.
And then you have movies like say Star Wars, and people talk about how frustrating it was, and George Lucas is he's always arguing with his people about not getting it correct in the lighting, and this is my vision, and.
He went to the hospital at one point for chest pains during the making of Star Wars.
So I mean, stuff like that. A stressful movie to make, and then you captured lightning in a bottle again.
Jaws. Oh, Jaws almost killed everybody involved. So.
Really? Yeah, I'd like to learn more about. Maybe we should talk about Jaws sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's definitely an ancestor to this one. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for us this time. And if you've stuck with us the whole way, thanks for loving this movie as much as we do. And we want to hear from you on Facebook. What was your favorite scene? Is it one of ours that we picked up on? Is it something that we left out? Where do you want to see the Alien movies go? I'm curious about that too. What's Disney supposed to do with it? What would make you happy or not? I want to thank Mac again for coming on and talking about this. This is going to be our show. Mac and I, we're just doing this one on our own. This is our own little obsession. These movies. And so look for the other entries in the future. And thanks for joining us.